All right, we'll go ahead and get started for tonight. Thank you again for being here. My name is Michael Ravley. I am the Senior Event Coordinator here at CRETS. With me tonight, we have Jackie Phillips, who is the Senior Coordinator for Student Engagement at ELS. We have Greg Kirby, the Director of Campus Reservations, and we have Josh Garrett, who is the Logistics Coordinator for Campus Reservations. This is our second of two info sessions that we're doing. If you're interested, we have recordings of both of these, so please reach out to Jackie Phillips at ELS if you would like a copy of that. And you can always email me at rabam@ugga.edu if you have any questions. With that, let's begin. So we'll start tonight's meeting the same that we started last week's, with an overview of our event spaces. We're going to cover three types of events tonight: meetings, awards, ceremonies, and outdoor events. And then we will kick it to Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. Our smallest large event space is Reception Hall, which is on the first floor of the Tate Student Center. Reception Hall has a 30-person max capacity during social distancing. In regular times, we can service 180 people in the space. It is a self-service tech space, which means that you do not have to pay to have a technician assist you with the space. We can offer projection. Tate 144, which is one of our meeting rooms, connects to that room and can be added to your reservation at an additional cost. This is not a space that is typically compatible with stages. Moving on, we have the Tate Theater. The Tate Theater has a 100-person max capacity right now, though when not social distance, we can fit 504 people in it. If you're going to rent the Tate Theater, you will need to hire a technician to monitor the tech for you and set all that up. We have two types of projection available: a standard projection, and a Dolby projection system that we can add to the reservation at additional cost if needed. This is not typically a space that we add stage to, though it has been done in the past. And we recommend getting a microphone for this space, just to make sure your voice travels from the front of the space to the back. Next up, we have Tate Grand Hall. This is our largest event space located on the 5th floor of the Tate Student Center. Right now, we can fit 120 people in the space at our max capacity. When we are not social distanced, we can fit 1,250 people in the space. Tate Grand Hall has 7 sections that can be subdivided and combined using air walls. We have a pre-function area that is included in the reservation, not listed here. We also have a plating kitchen, a green room, and a ticket booth that can be added to your reservation. We require a technician for this space due to the level of complexity in the tech setup. We have 2 types of stages: a red stage, which is our standard stage, and a pro stage, which comes with an additional cost and requires a little bit more setup time. Right now, we are not offering the pro stage due to COVID restrictions, but that's something we're hoping to offer after the pandemic ends. We have upgradable light and sound options available at a cost. And right now, we have a special promotional discount available through the end of the spring semester for 50% off of the room charge of this space for eligible groups. We'll have a little bit more detail on that later in the presentation. Next up, we have Memorial Hall Ballroom located across the street from the Tate Student Center. Right now, we can fit 45 people in that space at its max capacity. When not social distance, we can fit 300 people in the space. There is projection in the space. It is also a self-service tech space, though if you want to have the added security of having a technician on call, we can always add that to your reservation for you. This is a space compatible with stages, and another space that we definitely recommend use of a microphone. Legion Field is our largest outdoor space. It is located across Lumpkin Streets from the Tate Student Center. We have a 200-person max capacity in that space right now, a 4,000-person capacity when we're not social distanced. This is one that if you're looking to book, please be sure to reach out early so that we can handle some extra logistical things that are required for this space. We do require use of a field manager, And a technician may be required based on the nature of your event, as there's no technical infrastructure like sound or stage lighting built into the space. If your event happens after dark, we do require safety egress lighting to be bought at an additional cost from a vendor. You can use pool restrooms, or for large events, we recommend porta potties be rented from vendors at an additional cost. And currently, this space is only available after 5 p.m. on a weekday or any time of day on the weekend. Finally, we have the UGA Chapel, which is located on North Campus. Presently, it can seat 86 people at its max, 433 if we were not social distance. There is a small lobby area, and because this is a historic location, there is no food allowed. Your event manager will be present and will manage any technical support or any other support needs you may have during your event. We have projection and stage lighting available for you. There is a small stage built into the space with no side wings or dressing rooms. We have a piano available, and currently this is a space that you can either rent on weekends or after 4 p.m. on weekdays. With that covered, we'll go ahead and move into the events that we'll be covering tonight. Often for meetings, our customers will look to meeting rooms in the Tate Student Center and the MLC for their needs. Though, if you have a larger meeting or a meeting that maybe needs to feel a little bit more special, we can offer the Tate Reception Hall, Tate Theater, or Memorial Hall Ballroom for those needs. These are spaces that we chose to recommend because you don't necessarily need a microphone to be heard in those spaces. We definitely offer Tate Grand Hall for meetings, but given the size of the space, you may need a microphone for all of your guests, and that can be a little bit pricey at the end of the day. Some things to think about: will people need to take notes? If so, you may want to provide them with clipboards, or make sure that you have adequate tables, which can look a little bit different than it would in a non-socially distant time. So that's definitely something to ask your event coordinator about. You may also think about if you need breakout rooms. Tate Grand Hall can serve a great purpose there by using air walls to create breakout rooms. We're also able to offer the 4th floor meeting rooms and 1st floor meeting rooms as part of your reservation for that. Next, we'll talk about award ceremonies. We would consider Tate Grand Hall, Memorial Hall Ballroom, or Reception Hall great venues for this kind of event. 2 to 3 months before your event is scheduled, please schedule a planning meeting with us. And we want you to consider what your budget might be, who you think the target audience of your event is, and the vibe you're going for your event. All of these can help dictate things like additional tech we can offer, what space might be best for it, what stuff like that, where furniture could be placed, how it could be placed. It's things that really helps us get a feel for your event and offer the best recommendations. Often award ceremonies are catered, so we ask if you are having it catered, let us know who that is. Often we've worked with a lot of caterers around town, and think about where they might put their equipment. In Tate Grand Hall, this is less of an issue because we have a service hallway available. But if you're booking an event in Tate Reception Hall, a lot of that space can be taken up with bags and other catering equipment that you may not have thought about during the planning phase. Finally, we will talk about outdoor events, which are often some of our most complicated events just due to the level of detail needed. We offer outdoor events in Legion Field, Hurdy Field, New College Lawn, President's Club Garden, and Tate Lawns. For Legion Field specifically, it's important that you start planning really early and schedule a planning meeting with us here at CRETS just to make sure we're on the same page that we get you the information you need. Before your planning meeting, you should know your timeline, the timeline of your event, expectations you may have, technical needs you may have, and your budget is so important with Legion Field events. As I mentioned, often for Legion Field events, you may need egress lighting or porta potties. And so knowing that there may be multiple vendors involved and knowing your budget really helps for A note we have here is that the best outdoor events are not indoor events being held outside. When our social distancing guidelines came through, we had a lot of events that were thinking that they could just sub Legion Field for Tate Grand Hall, and it's a little bit more complicated than that. It takes a little bit more work to make things happen outside. We offer Legion Field with rain or shine, so it may be important to secure a rain location for your event. And for most of our outdoor locations, we do have restrictions on amplified sound. So be sure to ask your event coordinator about that during your planning meeting. That is all the scheduled content we have for tonight, so I'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. Please feel free to put those in the Zoom chat and we'll answer them to the best of our ability.
Awesome. We've received quite a few questions so far.
Great.
The first question is, are all these spaces paid even for UGA in-house events?
Are they paid?
Do they all cost money?
So the question was, do UGA event spaces cost money? The answer is yes, except for meeting rooms. Meeting rooms cost nothing for the first 2 hours of use. After that, you are charged for each hour of use. For all of our large event spaces, like the ones we covered today, there is an hourly cost, and that hourly cost is dependent on who the event is for and who is booking the event. You can always reach out to us at reserve@uga.edu with questions if you're not sure how much an event space might cost, and that's also information available on our website. Greg, did you want to discuss the Grant Hall discount that I mentioned earlier?
Sure, since we're talking about price, I know Michael did a great job of talking about what the price of each event space is. If you go to our website, reservations.uga.edu, and click on the pricing little drop-down menu off to the right-hand side of our website, it'll take you to a page that spells out all of the hourly or flat charges for all of our event spaces on campus. The question Michael posed to me was about the discount. Right now, we are currently offering a 50% discount off the total amount of any reservations in Grand Hall for student organizations and student affairs departments. So if you're thinking about needing a large open space like Grand Hall, to host an event or a meeting or award ceremony like we talked about today, Grand Hall might be a great location given the fact that we've lowered that price to a 50% discount for all student organizations at this time.
Thank you, Greg. Great, thank you, Greg.
And on the same topic of cost, someone wants to know, does the green room and kitchen cost extra with Tate Grand Hall?
So the green room is available at no extra cost depending on the type of event. It's one that we don't offer it for all events, just for events that it sort of makes sense if you have a high profile guest attending who maybe needs a little space to change or shower or relax before speaking. The Tate, was it the ticket booth that was mentioned?
I think
the kitchen and the ticket booth are both available. Is the ticket booth available?
Ticket booth is available and the kitchen is available at no cost.
Or I think the kitchen rather is available at 25 for just a flat cost of 25. This is why it's a great idea to email us at reserve@uga.edu, where I can pull up the information on my computer and tell you directly. The green room for sure is available at no additional cost, and I believe that the kitchen is available at a per unit cost of $25 flat.
I will add the caveat about the kitchen. The kitchen is available for reservations with Grand Hall. The kitchen is not available just to reserve the kitchen to cook a meal because there's no oven in there. It's only a plating location for an event being held in Grand Hall. So I wanted to make sure that was really clear to help with that question.
Thank you.
Awesome. And then the next question is the student organization allowed to charge an entrance fee for events held on campus?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I say this is a great question for Jackie to answer. Jackie, do you need to go to a microphone or can you?
I've unmuted myself, so I'm pretty sure this is going through okay. If not, please let me know in the chat. But in order to collect an entrance fee, you just need to fill out the fundraising request form through the Department of Engagement, Leadership, and Service. And that form is found on the front page of the Involvement Network. But if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to els@uga.edu. It's a very simple process, but make sure you submit that with us because we do work in tandem with CRETS to make sure that you have got fundraising approval before they will move forward and officially go through with your reservation. So just make sure to fill out that form and communicate with us what you're collecting money for and what that process will look like. And then we'll send over a permit and then you'll move forward with CRETS throughout their process.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Jackie.
And then another question was, are you willing to share the slides so that folks can also print them out in addition to the recording?
Yeah, 100%. If you want to email me, again, my name is Michael. My email address is RAB as in boy, AM as in Mary @uga.edu. I'm happy to share these slides with you.
And that's all the questions we have currently, but if anyone else has any more, feel free to send those in the chat, either to the whole group or to me individually, and I'm happy to read those out, but we'll give y'all a minute just in case any other thoughts come to mind. So another question we just received is for events taking place outdoors, what do you recommend for rain plans?
I would say that the most typical rain plan is to reserve an indoor event space of equivalent size for that day. Often this can be tough to do if you're planning kind of a last minute event, but if you're planning maybe a year out, 6 months out, often we'll have days that are available with both. A lot of people may be hesitant to do that because they're afraid that they will be charged for both. But what we typically ask is that maybe 3 or 4 days before your event, we'll touch base or you'll touch base. Let us know if you think that you'll need the event based on how the weather is looking, and then we can just cancel that additional hold for you.
I'll add on to that as well, as Michael mentioned early in the presentation, that not all outdoor events and or indoor events translate one to another. So if you are planning an outdoor event and you've got inclement weather, realize that moving it inside might not always be feasible, and particularly if you're looking for an outdoor space to host more than what a capacity of an inside space with social distancing will allow at this point. Also, your activities may have to be adjusted if you move from an outdoor location to an indoor location.
And someone asked for clarification. If you have a backup event space indoors for a rain plan, do you have to pay for that space?
The only reason you would have to pay for that space is if the date of your event passed and it had not been made clear to us that you would not be using it. Typically, if we're holding an event space as a rain space, that's something that we mark internally so that we know, and we tend to be pretty up to date on that. So in most cases, we'll probably have already touched base with you to see like, hey, you know, it's Monday, your event's Friday, when do you suspect that you'll make a call for your rain space? So it would be, I think it would be kind of a rare circumstance for us to charge somebody for 2 spaces if they weren't using one of them, just given our communication habits.
Great. And then someone stated that they reviewed the website but couldn't find pricing for the Tate Theater for movie events. Do you have any suggestions?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
I think, so with the Tate Theater specifically, I would check that we do have per hour room charges available on our website, so I would check that. Aside from that, there's typically not much other cost related to furniture since there are seats in the theater. From there, you may need a microphone head, which would be $10. You will certainly need a projectionist for your event, which is $10 an hour. The main cost I think to consider for a movie night is you need to have the copyright permission to show a movie in order to publicly show it at an event. These are rights that can be obtained through swank.com typically. Certainly for US movies, I know that some people that have tried to show international movies have had trouble finding the rights that way. Any site that will let you purchase copyright passes for a movie is fine for us. But it's important to do that. And often those permissions can cost, you know, $100+. So movie nights aren't always as simple as booking the Tate Theater for a couple hours and putting a DVD in a computer. Again, as we said last week, I think the most important component to a successful event is communication with our office. So if you have questions, if you're not sure what that process looks like, if you're not sure if you maybe don't need to get permission for a certain type of movie, please email us. We're happy to walk you through that process.
Great. And then for reserving the intramural fields, who would folks contact for that?
To reserve space at the intramural field, you need to reach out to Recreational Sports. They have their own website and they handle their own spaces over the Ramsey Center and the intramural fields.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. That's all of the questions we currently have. Are there any other questions or thoughts or things that anyone is interested in learning more about? Feel free to send those in the chat.
While we're kind of waiting for some more questions to come through, I announced this at the last presentation last Monday, and I'll announce it at this one as well. This current semester, the fall semester, we, due to COVID restrictions, we did not have any indoor tabling spaces available inside of the Tate Student Center. We did that because we were concerned with the amount of people and the amount of traffic within the building, but to make sure there was enough 6 feet social distancing for walkway space in the building. We've revisited that, and we are actually going to be allowing indoor tabling for the spring semester starting on January 15th. So you can actually make those reservations now for starting the day after the start of the spring semester. So instead of being outside in the cold, we will only have 5 indoor tabling spaces available, and then the rest of them will be outside.
We'll give it just another second or so for any additional questions.
Yes, and then is the 50% discount only available for the largest spaces for reservations?
The 50% discount is only for a grand hall reservation. So I'll give you a couple scenarios. If you were to book Tate Reception Hall or the Tate Theater, the discount does not apply. If you book Grand Hall and 4th floor meeting rooms for a conference, the discount would only apply to the Grand Hall portion of your reservation. Now, with a Grand Hall reservation, you would get 50% off whatever's included with Grand Hall. That would include all furniture in Grand Hall, the use of a technician, lighting packages, whatever is physically booked for Grand Hall.
And I would recommend, if you have a booking happening currently in Memorial Hall Ballroom or something, save yourself some money. Send me an email and see if the date's available for Grand Hall. We didn't offer the deal because we don't want people to use it. So if you have an event that you think could fit in Grand Hall, shoot us an email and see what we can do to make it happen.
And on that note, what is the minimum head count required for Grand Hall?
There is no minimum head count. Yeah, 1. I guess it could be 0. If you want to book it and have nobody in there for like an art project or something. But yeah, there's no minimum head count required.
Just realize you are paying an hourly charge to rent Grand Hall. So for one person, that's still a little bit on the pricey side.
If you need a space that's very, very quiet to study in, maybe you go Grand Hall.
Like for example, this semester we've had dance classes in Grand Hall, which we've never typically had. We've offered yoga classes, which we've never typically had, just because the space has been available. So if there's something that you're thinking about, check availability or contact us.
And that actually is a question we've been receiving a lot about dance spaces. Do you have any suggestions for folks other than Grand Hall? Are there other spaces where folks could do dance classes, or is that really the one that you would point them towards and suggest to them?
Correct. Dance spaces are tricky ones. In a non-COVID world, I would recommend that you look for any empty space, because that's what you really want. You want an empty room. And there are 2 empty spaces, 2 empty meeting spaces within the Tate Student Center, plus Reception Hall, Grand Hall, and Memorial Hall, Ballroom Hall are all empty spaces. Now, with COVID restrictions, the number capacity then changes. So you can still reserve Tate Theater, Reception Hall, and some of the smaller empty meeting rooms, but realize the capacity numbers have been adjusted for only a 20% capacity within the room. So it depends on what type of dance class or dance function you want. You may want to, depending on the nature of how many your estimated attendance would be, you might want to look at what empty space is going to suit you well. On that vein, I would suggest on our very first page of our website, reservations.uga.edu, in the red COVID-19 section, toward the end of all of the explanations about COVID-19, there is a link. And if you click on that link, it'll show you all the capacity numbers for all the rooms in the Tate Student Center and the Memorial Hall. So that'll help you to kind of figure out a space that you're looking for to match your attendance.
And I think to add on that, we talk about, the max capacity of the theater is 100, or the max capacity of Tate Grand Hall is 120. It's kind of important to note that those are contextual numbers. So the max capacity of Tate Grand Hall is 120 if we don't have a stage in the space. So if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, we'd like to have a dance practice in Memorial Hall Ballroom, and we have 45 people in attendance, which is the max capacity of the space, I would probably tell them that I think that we need to cut the numbers a little bit, just because, maintaining 6 feet of distance between 45 people at all times while they're dancing gets a little bit tricky. So again, all those numbers are contextual, and that's something that as you email us and as you kind of discuss what you have in mind for your event, that's something we can help you figure out a little bit more.
And another question we received is, do the prices include cleanup fees? And then what are the rules for bringing in food items?
So that's kind of a tricky question. So for most events, that the price of the room charge would include cleanup, but we do recommend that all student groups clean up after themselves after they're done with the space. Specifically, we ask that because, as the student center, we do serve a lot of different students, and often we're serving students back to back. So if we have an event, if we have 2 events with maybe 30 minutes separating them, if the event that starts first doesn't clean up after themselves, it maybe cuts into the time that the other space has. If you are bringing food, and this will eventually segue into the second question, if you're bringing food, often we'll let our custodial partners in facilities management know of that, so that they can be sure to go in and clean really thoroughly and get the space looking, spick and span. If there are any sort of like extracurricular charges associated with the cleaning, if it's a cleaning that takes maybe a little bit of extra effort or wouldn't be considered standard cleaning, sometimes there will be additional charges added to the end of your reservation. That's not something I can typically know until after an event has happened, because I can't know how much cleaning is going to cost until the cleanings happen. So I think my recommendation just sort of broadly would be, if you have an event that's running until 9, I would have people out of the space at 8:30, so you can give yourself and your group an extra 30 minutes to clean the space, make sure that it's looking ready for the next group to come in, and to make sure there won't be any additional charges.
I would say that the caveat to that is, if you are having an event with food, more than likely there would be a cleaning charge associated with bringing food to the space. So kind of gauge that on that qualification.
Yeah. To answer the second question, which was about whether or not food is allowed to be used in our event spaces, food is allowed to be used in our event spaces, though obviously, as with everything right now, we do have some caveats associated with that. So as things stand right now, we request that all food be individually packaged and pre-portioned. This is kind of a liability thing. We don't want there to be any sort of risk involved for student groups for hosting events that serve food. So we may ask that if you had planned on cooking hamburgers and hot dogs, maybe look into buying a bunch of Chick-fil-A sandwiches and distributing those, since the liability becomes Chick-fil-A's at that point. Outside of COVID, I don't think we have any spaces that don't allow food. Again, it just comes up to, how much do you have in your budget for potential cleanup if you're serving sloppy joes and there might be a big cleanup after, something like that.
If you're hosting an event that you're self-serving essentially food, as Michael mentioned, prepackaged food during COVID times. The other option to that is you can have a licensed caterer, because a licensed caterer will be following CDC guidelines on food service, which means that would not include a buffet. Buffet currently is not in line with CDC guidelines. So it would be a caterer bringing in prepackaged items, like Michael said.
Awesome. Are there any last questions?
Thank you all for your questions. These have been really great questions. And again, if something hits you in 10 minutes after the presentation is done, please feel free to email us. My email is rabam@uga.edu, or you can reach us at reserve@uga.edu. Any other questions, Jackie? Cool. Well, I think with that, we will wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said, we have recordings of this session as well as last session. If you would like copies of those, please let us know. Please feel free to email me if you'd like copies of the slides. And as always, email us if you have any questions. Thank you to Josh and Craig and Jackie for being here. And yeah, have a great night, everybody.